Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, A Monk in Cloud. So today we are going to build another exciting DevSecOps project, which is background remover application, a Python application. We are going to deploy that on a Kubernetes cluster with the DevSecOps approach. So if you're wondering what are the different things or the tools that we are going to use, if you see on the screen, as the thumbnail itself says, we are going to use Jenkins as the CI/CD pipeline builder, and then we are going to containerize this application. We are going to push the image to our Docker Hub registry, and then it is going to be deployed on the Kubernetes cluster. We are going to scan the code if there are any vulnerabilities. We are also going to scan the entire file system using Trivy, and we are going to monitor and observe everything using Prometheus and Grafana node exporter. We are going to build the dashboard from scratch, and everything, whatever the required things that are there in order to build this project is documented in this particular README file and also in this GitHub repository. So only thing that you need is this repository and the video that I'm creating just now. So if that is clear, let me just walk you through the code base, what is the directory structure, and then we will deploy the same application on our local machine and see if everything works. And then we are going to do the CI/CD and DevSecOps approach. Okay, so let me go all the way up. If you see here, this is how the folder structure looks like. We have app.py, which is very important. Here is where the main logic of the application comes in. So I'm importing all the libraries that are required, and I'm going to use the Flask library here because that makes my job easier. So only thing you need to know is here I'm logging it I've configured extra logging here, and I've also set the file size limit. When I upload the file, it should be having maximum of 10 MB, and these are the only extensions that are allowed, that is PNG, JPEG and JPG. Okay, and if everything is in the range of allowed extensions and allowed content length, then it is going to upload the file, and that is going to be a post request. And if the user does not select a file at all, you are going to get a no file selected error. And if the file uploaded is valid, it will check if PNG, JPEG or JPG images are uploaded. If not, it will give an error saying invalid file format. Okay. Now, if everything else is good, it is going to call very important package, that is rembg, which is remove background. That is the main and core of this project. So it will use the remove function on that package, and it is going to take the input image which we uploaded, and then it will post that process mask, and it will provide, or it will send the background removed image to the user. If you see here, let's say you are uploading image, the image that you are going to get is image underscore rmbg. Okay, so that will be downloaded and it will be rendered to the users at the end. And if you observe carefully, the application is going to run on port 5100. Okay, so if this looks good, let's go ahead and explore other files. And we have requirement.txt. Here is where all the packages that are required being installed. I'm using Flask, Gunicorn, Pillow, RMBG, right? So these are the things that you need to mention in the requirement.txt. Next, let's see the Docker file later. Okay, we have templates here. If you see here, index.html, a simple one. I'm not, as this is demonstration, so I've kept it really simple so that the core idea is to deploy this application with the approaches that we discussed and then see how it goes. So if you want to improve this front end, if you want to take it forward, please go ahead and do that. I don't have any issues. Only thing that you can do is you can star the repository, okay, or you can also fork the repository and do something else, or do and contribute to the community. And we have the Kubernetes folder where I've kept all the manifest files that are required, the deployment.yaml, node service.yaml, and the service.yaml. And after that, I have a Docker file here. So I'm using Python 3 and the working directory, I'm creating it as /app. Firstly, I'm copying all the requirement.txt from this repository into this app folder. and then I'm just running the same thing, that is pip install requirement.txt. Once that is done, I'm exposing the application on port 5100, and I'm running it on using gunic on bind, and it should be on the localhost 5100, and app/as workers, I'm specifying it as 4. So this is the command which will help you run the Flask application using the gunic for production. So that is one of the key things that you need to note. And I forgot to mention about this. This is just to copy the current directory contents into the container at /application. Okay, so if this is clear, let's go ahead, copy this repository or clone this repository on the local machine and see how it works on the local machine. Okay, so let me just copy the HTTPS path, and I'll open my favorite editor, and I'll just open this one. Let's see what file we are in. So okay, so we are in the root directory, so I'll get inside downloads. Okay, so here let me clear the screen. Now all I have to do is git clone and provide the path that I just copied. If you see here, git clone and this one. And if you do not have the git installed, just go ahead and install it. Git is pretty useful whenever you are building such projects, and you should be versatile to adapt for the changes. So this is now done. So let me cd into background remover application. Okay, so it should be background, right? So I'll just say that, and I'll get inside that folder. Okay, now if you see here, I'll just say ls-lrt, and you see all the files and folders that we just discussed on the GitHub repository. So it is also present. So if I want to run this application, I've given you the guide, all the commands required in order for you to run that. So if you see here, if you want to run it on the local machine, you just have to go ahead and install pip all the dependencies by running pip install -r and the requirement.txt that is present here. I'll hit enter, and if you see here, all the things will be downloaded. If it is already there, then it will just going to ignore that. If you see here, all the things have been downloaded. Now let me clear the screen for you. The next thing that I need to run is Python and app.py. So just copy that. Okay, let me come over here, and I will say Python 3 because that is what installed on my machine, and I'll hit enter. And if you see here, it is serving the Flask application. Okay, and it's not in the debug mode, and it's running on the local address. So let me just copy this one, and I'll go to my favorite browser. Okay, and if I hit enter, if you see here, it is running on the local machine, and this is the application. So it is asking us to upload the image to remove the background, and we also have a space to choose the file. So if I just click on this, before that, let me show you. Let me go to downloads, and if you see here, this is one of the test image, the chameleon that I've downloaded, and if you clearly observe, there are some background present here, right? So what I'll do is I'll just close this one. I'll just click and upload this file as an example. Okay, let me select that, and if I go ahead and click on remove background, you see this is processing. Okay, and it will download the image once that is done. So if you see here, it's still processing it, and once that is done, as you saw in the code, it removes the background, and it will give you the image _rmbg.png. So let me open that, and if you see, there are no backgrounds for this image. Okay, so this is the ultimate aim of this project. So if this is clear, let's see what are the things that are happening in the background. If you see here, we have firstly, whenever I opened the browser, when I clicked and open on this localhost 5100, it was a get request on 2000. And then we uploaded a file which is going to be a post request, and it was 200 again. So basically, whatever the actions that we are performing, it is saying that get request was successful and the post request was also successful. So ultimately, this is what we are trying to build. If this looks good to you, let's go ahead and create all the resources that are required in order for us to deploy the same application on the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so let me just close this one as I do not need that. Firstly, we need EC2 instance to create to install Jenkins to build and push the image, and we also need SonarQube. We need to install Grafana. We also need to install Prometheus, everything. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and launch an EC2 instance that are required for this work. So I'll just logged into my EC2 instance. I'm in my US East 1 region. So firstly, I'll go ahead and click on EC2. So if you see here, currently I have 0 instances running. Okay, so let me go ahead and launch an instance. I'll just say Jenkins -server. Okay, so this is good. And I'm going to choose Ubuntu as the base image, or the Amazon machine image that I'm going to select. And then I'm going to select a larger instance, because we are going to do a lot of things here, and t2.micro will not really help here. So I'm just going to go with t2.2x large. That is not required, but I thought let me go ahead and do that. But if you are on free trial, make sure to choose the one that is free for you. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and then I need to select a new key pair. So instead I'll just create a new one. So I'll say BMRI background remover application, and I'm going to select the extension as PEM, and I'll click on create key pair, and it will be downloaded. Please keep it safely so that you will be able to log into the instances. Okay, now there is another requirement, that is we need to select the networking. So I'll click on edit it. I'm going to be in the default VPC, so that should be fine. And subnet, everything I'll keep it as is. And I'm going to select the existing security group, which is Linux SG. But I'm going to discuss about this, what are the ports that are required, everything in a while. So just understand that you're going to have certain ports that needs to be open for the public usage, right? So we are going to see what those ports are. So I've selected that. And storage, I'm going to go with 30 GB, because in free tier, customers are eligible and can get up to 30 GB of EBS, general purpose or magnetic storage. So if this looks good, let's go ahead and launch the instance. And this will take a couple of moments to create the instance. So if I open this one, if you see here, currently the instance state is in pending. So let's wait for a while and come back once the instance is ready. And we will also see how to install all the required things in a while once that is done. Okay, I feel that the instance is in running state. So what we'll do is let's click on open that server, and I'll click on connect, and I'll go to SSH client. Firstly, need to make sure that you are in the folder where your key pairs are present. If you see here, this is where my key files are located. It's in downloads folder. Okay, so let me remove this file. Okay, bgra.pm is where my PEM file is located. So I need to change the permission on that key file, else it is going to fail. So let me open my terminal. Okay, so I'll zoom in a bit for you to see what is happening. Okay, let me go inside downloads folder, and if you see here, you will have bgra file that we just downloaded. Okay, so I'll clear the screen. Next thing that I need to do is change the permission, but before that I'll show you what permission errors you will get. Let me just copy the example that is required in order to log into the EC2. Okay, if I hit enter, we are logging in, and I'm permitting my fingerprint, and I'll click on S, and if you see here, permission 0644 for BGR2 open, and you need to restrict it. So what we'll do is we'll just go with the command that I previously gave. If I go to the AWS console, let's copy this chmod and come back to the terminal. Now you should be good to log in. So I'll just run the same command, and you should be inside the EC2 machine. So if you see here, now we are logged in as a Ubuntu user, and this is the IP of the EC2 instance. So let me clear the screen. So to keep it simple, I'll log in as a root user. So sudo su hyphen, and now I'm a root user. So the next thing that I need to do is install all the required things. One is to install AWS CLI. Let me just copy this command and paste it here. and it is going to download the AWS CLI. But however, if things not working as per this documentation, you can always Google it. So if you want AWS CLI install Ubuntu, if you do that, you will get the installation guide, and all I have done is copied and pasted everything into a single location, right? So if you see here, this is what we are also trying to do. Okay, so if this is good, it will going to install AWS CLI. Next, we need to install Jenkins on Ubuntu. Again, the same process. If the command that I have given here is not working for you, go ahead and install it from the Jenkins installer. Okay, so I'll just copy this one. Okay, let me come here, and if you see here, AWS CLI is installed. So let me clear the screen and paste the second command, that is to install Jenkins. For installing Jenkins, if you observe, Java JDK is necessary, so we need to install that first, and then we need to install Jenkins. So pretty much most of the time whenever I was working, so this command was helpful even while installing things. So you can check this out. If this not work, you can go ahead and use the Jenkins repository to install that. Okay, so let's check if this is done. Now it is still installing. It will take a while for it to complete. So let's give it a moment. If you see here, Jenkins continuous integration server is up and running from 2 seconds. So this is looking good. I'll just say Control C and come out of that command. And now we need to install a Docker. So this is the command to install Docker. So you don't have to go with this approach, but you can also install apt install docker.io. But I'm going with this native command that I get from the Docker repository. So I'm going to use this. So I'll just go to my terminal again. I'll clear the screen and paste the command that I just copied, and I enter. And this should not take much of your time. So once that is done, we will go and install Trivi on Ubuntu. So again, I've given the documentation as well. If you want to use the documentation, you can do that. But I'll just copy this one and paste it in order to install Trivi. So let's see if the Docker is installed. Okay, so looks like it has completed. Okay, so let me clear the screen. Now I'll paste Trivi's code that I just copied. I'll go ahead and install that. Okay, seems like all the dependencies are installed now. Let me clear the screen. Okay, so now let's check if everything is installed or not. So firstly, we installed a AWS CLI. So let me check AWS -- version. And if you see here, this is the CLI version 2.18.1. That is the latest version that is available. That is looking good. Next, we need to check Docker -- version. This is also a latest version 27.3.1. So this looks good. Next is Trivi -- version. And let's see the Trivi version, that is 0.56.1. Next, we also installed Jenkins. Okay, so let's check version of Jenkins -- version, and you will see the Jenkins version as 2.462.3. Okay, so this is all the things you have to install. Apart from this, we also need pip3. So what I'll do is sudo, we are already having sudo permissions. So I'll just say apt install pip3. So, okay, unable to locate package pip3. Okay, so we'll do one thing, apt update -y. I think we should have done this in the very beginning, but that's not a problem. So don't have to worry about it. So next, we'll also try to upgrade. Okay, apt upgrade -y. So these two commands I would recommend you to run as soon as you log into the EC2 instance, because I forgot that, but you should be doing that. Okay, so now let me clear the screen. Sorry, I'll just say clear. Next, I'll try to install pip3. So using this command. Okay, not a problem. I'll just say pip apt install pip. I'll say yes. Okay, so this is going to install few bits. So it is going to take some time. So let's wait for that to complete. All right, if you see here, the installation is complete. So let me clear the screen for you. Okay, so now everything that we need to do is on the browser. So what I'll do is, if you go back to your EC2 instance, so I'll go to instance, grab the public IP, and firstly, I will show you what are the security groups rules that I've added. That will be more helpful to you. I'll just click on inbound rules. And if you see, I have allowed a lot of traffic here, but I'll just remove this. That is not required. And if you see here, these are all the ports that are required in order for you to run this application. One is HTTPS port. I've allowed it on 443 from all the IPs, and port 9000 from all IPs, from 9100 on all IPs. Why it is required? Because 9000 is where our SonarQube port works. So node exporter, where it will use 9100, so that is required. But this is especially required for the Grafana, but app port is not the right word here. But for Grafana, port 3000 is required. And HTTPS port for HTTP, H22 for SSH, and 8080 is required for Jenkins, and 9090 is required for Prometheus. And again, we also need to provide 5100, because as I told you in the application, if I go to Docker file, if you see here, the application is running on port 5100. Okay, so let me copy that and I'll add that new rule here. I'll just say 5100 and from everywhere. But you can always go ahead and restrict this IPs from whichever you want to use. But to keep it simple, I'm allowing it from everywhere. But in production, this is not the scenario. Okay, this is going to be your app port. So I've just it should be 0. Yeah, it should be 5100 as your app port. So I'll save the rules. Next, in the outbound, I've just allowed all the traffic. Okay, so that should be good enough. Next, let's go ahead and grab the public IP and open port 8080 for Jenkins. So I'll just paste this one and I'll give port 8080 at the end and I'll hit enter. You will have the Jenkins application up and running for you. If you see here, to unlock Jenkins, you need the initial password that will be in this location. Go to your server. Okay, then just cat and paste this, and you should be getting the password. Just copy that password, go ahead, paste that administrator password and click on continue. I'll not save that password. I'll go ahead and install suggested plugins. So it will take 2 or 3 minutes to install that. Let's wait for a moment. Okay, so first it is asking us to create first admin user. If you want to provide that, go ahead and do that. If you do not want, you can also skip and continue. But as a best practice, it is always recommended for you to go with the first admin user. So I'm gonna create one user, a simple one, and then I'm gonna use this one. I'll click on save and continue. And this is our Jenkins URL, and I'll save and finish. So now the Jenkins is ready. Let's start using Jenkins. Okay, so once Jenkins is completed, we also need to run SonarQube. SonarQube is required in order to check the vulnerabilities, quality gateway, and things like that. So for that, what I've given is, let's go to the repository. So simple way to create a SonarQube instance is to have that running as a Docker image, right? If you want, what you can do is you can create a SonarQube Docker container and then start using it. So that's what I'm doing here. If you see Docker run -d, I'm naming that as Sonar, and it runs on port 9000, and this is the image of the SonarQube. So let's just copy this. I'll go here and I'll clear the screen for you, and I'll just run this code, and this will be creating the SonarQube container. So if you see here, it is downloading the image as that was not available locally. Once that is done, it is going to create the SonarQube container. So now let me just say Docker PS. If you see here, SonarQube is the application that is running from 10 seconds. So if you want to access this application, you can go ahead and grab the public IP of the EC2 and open port 9000. Okay, so let's just do that. I'll go to my instance, copy the public IP, go and open that and port 9000 and hit enter. So SonarQube instance is also ready. Now let's go to Jenkins. Click on Manage Jenkins. We need to install few packages and tools. So what we'll do is we'll go and go to plugins here, and we'll go to available plugins. So firstly, I need to install few things on Docker. So I'll just search for, it should be Docker. And here I'll select Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, Docker Build Step. So these are all the things that are required for running Docker. So this looks good. Next, we need to go with dependency check. So I'll search for dependency, and you will see OWASP dependency check. So let's select that one. Okay. Next, we need to install stage view. So I'll search for pipeline stage view. So this should be good. I'll select that one. Next, we don't need JDK. Let me see in the repository what else do we need. So SonarQube, Docker, we have done that. Trivy not required. Prometheus. Okay, so we need Prometheus. So I'll just say Prometheus. So if you search for Prometheus, you will see Prometheus metrics. I'll select that one. And pipeline, Prometheus, OWASP, Docker, and what else? I think this should be good. If we need anything, we can go ahead and install at the later part as well. But for now, this looks good. So I'll just click on install it. If you see, it is installing. Okay, so as Prometheus plugin requires, dynamic loading, Jenkins needs to be restarted. So to go ahead and do that, just click on this restart Jenkins when installation is required. So it is going to restart automatically. You don't have to do anything here. Once that is getting done, so let's also configure SonarQube. So it is asking for a login and the password. So the initial password would be admin, and also the username would also be admin. So I'll just give admin, and I'll log in. So we need to change the password here. The old password is admin. Now I'll give a new password. Okay. And I'll click on update. Once that is done, you will see SonarQube application up and running for you. Now let's go back to Jenkins. I need to log in here. I'll just say keep me sign in, and I'll sign in. Okay. So the plugin installation is complete now. So now what we need to do is we need to configure the tools here. So before that, we'll add some credentials. So why the credential is required, I'll tell you. So Jenkins is there, and we also have SonarQube here. So these two tools should be able to talk to each other whenever there is a necessary. So for example, as I told you, to analyze the code, to analyze the vulnerabilities, SonarQube really helps. So if that needs to happen, your Jenkins should talk to your SonarQube. So for that, we need to authenticate to SonarQube and Jenkins. We need to get the token for the SonarQube and add it in the Jenkins, so that Jenkins will be able to authenticate with the SonarQube and do the required things. So to do that, what we need to do, let's go and click on projects. Just go to SonarQube, administration, and here I need to go to security, under that users. Okay, go to administration, security, and if you see here, there are users, and select user. One is administrator. So click on this one, and you will have to give a name for this. I'll just say Jenkins expires in 30 days should be fine. I'll just generate it. You can copy this one, and you can go to manage Jenkins and go to credentials, and here click on global and click on add credentials. So this is going to be a secret text. Okay, so I'll just paste the secret or the token that I just copied, and I'll just say sonar token. So sonar hyphen token. Make sure whatever the name that you give here, it should be same if you are using my pipeline syntax, because in my pipeline I've given these names with the same syntax, or same case sensitivity. Okay, so I'll also add this as description and I'll click on create. We also need username and password for our Docker Hub. So let me log into Docker Hub as well. So let me open that. I'll click on sign in, and yeah, this is my user. I need to provide the password. Okay, so let me quickly do that. Once I have the password entered, you can click and log in and you will see the repository. So there is a image that is already created. So what I'll do is I'll just remove that for a while. I just tried it before, so it is there. So let me copy the name of the image, paste it, and this is getting deleted now. Okay, so this should be good. So I also need to authenticate with Docker Hub. Why it is required? As I told you, when we create an image, it should authenticate with Docker Hub, and then place that image into this hub. Right now, if you see here, I have deleted this image, but after some time we are going to create that. Once we create that, it should be placed inside this Docker Hub. So for that to happen, we need to add the secret or provide the username and password for this Docker Hub. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Let's click on add credentials again. It's going to be username and password, and the username would be, so let me go here. Let me you can either give email address. So email address is the preferred one. So amonkincloud@gmail.com. So make sure you are providing it right. If not, it will fail. And you should also enter the password. So let me enter my password. Okay, so here I'm gonna say Docker. The name should be same here. Please make a note of it, and I'll click on create. Okay, so these are the only two things that you need to create. So let me go to manage Jenkins now again. Here I need to go and configure the tools. So I'll click on tools. We don't have to do anything here. We just need to work on dependency check. So let me see if there is anything else required, not required. Okay, so let's click on add dependency check. Okay, so I'll say tp-check. So this is the name that I'm giving, and install automatically. I'm gonna select github.com, select the latest one, that is 10.0.4. And I also need Docker, so I'm just going to say Docker, and I'm going to install it from docker.com. Okay, so the version, it should be latest. So if this looks good, click on apply and save. Okay, now we need to configure SonarQube as well. So what I'll do, I'll just go to tools again. Let me see if there is any option to select SonarQube. Okay, I think we did not install anything related to Sonar. Let's go to plugins, and I'll go to available plugins. So you can search for Sonar. Sorry. So yeah, we need to install this as well, SonarQube Scanner. I missed that. And once you do that, click on install. But you can do this once while you're installing all the plugins. So I forgot it. So whenever you forget, don't worry. This is how things work. If you do not know what is the requirement exactly, do it as soon as or while you execute, right? So there is no harm in doing that. But make sure if you're restarting, everything is in place for you. Okay. So let's go to manage Jenkins now. Let's go to tools now. And if you see here, now you will have something related to Sonar. Okay. So if you see here, SonarQube installation, it is asking. So let's click on add that. I'll say Sonar-scanner, and I'm gonna install it from zip.tar. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. I'll just say add installer Maven Central. Yeah, this looks good. Sure, it is already installing from Maven, so we don't have to do anything. I'll just click on apply, and I'll also save it. So once we have configured the tools, let's go to systems. We need to add these details on the system. As I told you, we need to provide the URL of the SonarQube inside the Jenkins. So let's do that now. If you scroll down, if you see here, you have a Sonar cube. Okay, let's click on add Sonar cube. I'll just say Sonar hyphen server, and you need to provide the server URL here. Let's go here. You just need to copy until until port 9000. So let me go ahead and paste that. You can remove slash at the end. And for the authentication, we just created the token, right? So Sonar token, select that one. And I think you do not have to do anything else. Just click all the way. You can come all the way down, click on apply, and save this one. Okay. So now the configuration of Jenkins is complete, but we also need to do one more thing on the Sonar side. So I'll click on go to configuration. Under that, you see webhooks. Click on webhooks. Let's create a webhook here. So I'll just say Jenkins. And here I need to provide the Jenkins URL. So let me copy the Jenkins URL here. Come here, paste this one. This should be good. And we also need to add something extra. Sonar cube slash webhook slash. Okay, so this is the only requirement that you need to do. And you don't have to provide the secret, and click on create. So this is good. Webhook is created for the Jenkins here. Now all I have to do is create a pipeline and see how everything works. Okay, so now let's go to Jenkins, and I'll click on create new. I just name this as background remover Python app. So I'll just copy that, and I'll go to pipeline here. I'll select pipeline, and I'll click on OK. Here we need to provide the pipeline details. So what I'll do is I'll go to my repository. I've already provided the Jenkins pipeline syntax. You can just copy it. But before that, let me explain what are the things that we are doing in the pipeline syntax. You can always generate it by using this pipeline syntax application that Jenkins offers. For example, if you are checking out from the repository, right? So you can search for checkout here. If here you can provide git, and if you provide the repository URL, let's do that once just for you to understand. I'll copy the repository URL, and if I paste it here, and if I'll select none because I don't have to. This is a public repository, so I don't have to do that. My repository branch is main. If you see here, right, this is a main branch, so I'm gonna provide main here. And once this is done, it is generating the pipeline syntax. And if you see here, this is all the things that are required. Now, if you go to my pipeline syntax, that is the same thing that I've added in the Jenkins pipeline syntax also. If you see here, this is the stage where it is going to check out, right? If you want to verify, if you see here, this is the exact same syntax, right? So this is how you actually generate your pipeline syntax. You don't have to remember all these things, because most of the times one thing that you need to understand is either a pipeline will be already configured and you just need to make things work, or you will be building it from the scratch, and there is nothing that you are going to explore it thoroughly from the basics. All the pipelines are already available. Most of us, like all the creators, are downloading it and using it, and it is already published as video. But if there is something else that is not done, then you will go ahead and use the syntax and generate the pipeline syntax. Okay, firstly, if you see here, this is the main syntax where pipeline resides, and I'm giving agent as any, and I have few environment variables. So environment details, that is Sonar, and the Sonar scanner is the one. I'm setting that one. First, I need to clean the workspace. So I'm doing that in the first stage. And then I need to check out the code changes from the GitHub repository. So I'm doing that here, and I'm giving the same repository, or the currently what repository I'm using, the same repository has been given. Then I'm going to analyze the code and see if there is any issue with the code with the Sonar Cube analysis stage. And then we are going with the quality gateway. Then we will check for the OS dependency check with the file scan. Then I'm going with the trivy file scan. And then if everything looks good, it was going to build the Docker image by using docker build -t background remover application. And then it will tag this image and push it to the Docker hub. If you see here, Docker tag is there and Docker push is also there. So in order for this stage to work, right, so it needs to authenticate to your Docker Hub repository. So for that only we are using the tokens that we just created, okay, or the credentials. Next, we are also going to use Docker Scout, which is going to scout if there is any vulnerabilities on the image, and then it is going to deploy the container itself. But if you want to add the post build stage, like if you want to receive an email, you can do that with this part. All you have to do is you just need to change the email here. But I'm not going to use this approach because it is really simple. You can refer to my previous video where I've deployed Starbucks and I've also deployed Prime Video clone application. In that I've explained this clearly, but for this one I'm not going to do that. Okay, so let me just copy this one. Okay, so I'll go to my pipeline here. I'll paste this one. All I have to do is remove this part because we are not going to do that. Okay, so this looks good. We have provided all the details that is required. I'll just click on apply. And before doing that, we did not install the Docker Scout, right? So let's go to our repository. I've provided that as well. But for that, you need to first log into Docker. So let me do that. Go to your server where you have logged in. So it was disconnected, so I'm logging it again. I'll clear the screen. Firstly, we need to log into the Docker. So I'll say docker login -u, and you can provide the username. So my username is amankincloud@gmail.com, and hit enter. It will ask you for the password. Provide the password. Once you have provided the password, hit enter and you will be able to log in. Once you have logged in, go ahead and get the second command and run this. This will install Docker Scout for you. Okay, so the Docker Scout has been installed. And one more thing that you need to do is you need to change the permission on the Docker Scout, because other users will not be able to use it. But if you do this, everyone will be able to use it. Okay, but this is not really a production grade application. But if you want to deploy this in production, what you have to do is create a separate user where that user will be interacting with Docker, and it should have the required permission to work with Docker. You don't have to provide all the permission for all the users. Okay, so if this looks good, let's go to the Groovy script and click on apply. Then let's save it. And let's go ahead and build the pipeline. Okay, so once you start building this application, if you see here, let's go inside this. You will see the console output here, what is happening, if everything is working fine or not. Everything will be here. So if you go here, if you see here, this was the first stage where it cleans the repository, then it checks out, then it is going to analyze the code using SonarQube. And all the other stages will also be completed, like quality gateway. And this OSFS file scan will take 30 odd minutes for that to complete. So meanwhile, what we can do is we can go ahead and play with other things that we need to do, right? So let me go to my repository here. So we have done this part, we have completed till the pipeline. Next part is to go with the monitoring for the Jenkins, for the node port, for the Kubernetes cluster. So before that, what I would do is, firstly, let's go ahead and create the Kubernetes cluster itself, because it is going to take a lot of time. So what I'll do is, I've created a separate repository for us to learn about Kubernetes, how to create Kubernetes cluster. So let me open that for you. Kubernetes installation guide, not this one. Yeah, learn AWS EKS. And under day one, if you go here, you will get the commands that you need in order for you to create the Kubernetes cluster. So let's get that rolling. So I'll create a Kubernetes cluster using EKS CTL. So what I'll do is I'll open one more terminal and I'll do that. So let me just zoom in a bit for you. I'll go inside downloads folder again. Okay, now I'll just click on paste the command that I just copied, and it will going to create the cluster itself. So this will take 15 to 20 minutes for the cluster to be up. So let's wait for that to complete. And next we need to create the node group as well, and get the things rolling. Okay, so if you see here, all the commands that are required is provided in the learn AWS EKS on the H1LM GitHub repository. Okay, so if you see this, it is still taking time. So until the Kubernetes cluster comes up, we'll go ahead and do other things. Okay, so other things are we need to install Prometheus and Grafana. We need to configure all these things, and we also need to make certain changes on Prometheus.yaml, and then we'll go and deploy this application on Kubernetes using Argo CD, right? So we have a lot of things to do. Now let's go ahead and install all the things for monitoring. So for setting up monitoring on your server, you have to go with Prometheus and Grafana to monitor the application. And monitoring comes with really easy steps. One is to install Prometheus and Grafana, which is really straightforward. First, let's go ahead and create a dedicated Linux user for Prometheus and download Prometheus. Okay, so this is the step to do that. Let me copy this. Okay, so I will open another terminal where I've logged in as this is inside the server. If you see here, this is a server that we have logged in, which is Jenkins server. Okay, so let me go here. I just need to paste the command that I just copied. So this is going to install, create a user called Prometheus. Now let's go ahead and install Prometheus. Okay, so let me just copy this one, paste this command that I copied. Okay, so that is done. Now let me come down here, and we need to set the ownership. So I'll just copy this one and paste it. All you have to do is just copy paste, but you just need to understand what we are doing here, right? So that's the sole requirement. We need to create a systemd unit configuration file for Prometheus. In order to do that, you need to create a service in this path. So /etc systemd system and prometheus.service. Let me copy this. Let me go inside the server. Let me clear the screen for you. And what I'll do is I'll just open my favorite editor, that is VI, and I'll paste this one. And I'll click on insert mode. You have to click on I. Then you will have to copy this one and paste it here. So let me just copy and Control V. Now click on escape :WQ exclamation and hit enter, and that should be good. Okay, so that's done. We need to next enable Prometheus and then start Prometheus, and we also need to verify the status of it. But if you're wondering what things we did here, or when we just copy pasted, basically in the users and group section, we are specifying the Linux user and the group under which Prometheus will run. And XX start is where you specify the Prometheus binary path and the location of the configuration file, that is prometheus.yaml, and the storage directory and other settings. Web.listen address, basically it configures the Prometheus to listen on all network interfaces on port 9090. Web.enable lifecycle allows for the management of Prometheus through API calls. So if that is clear, let's just copy this one. Now first we are enabling it, then we are starting Prometheus. Okay, so let's see if Prometheus is started. Okay, so that is started. Now let's check the status of Prometheus. If you see, it is up and running from 10 seconds. So this looks good. I'll come out of it by clicking Control C. So now we have completed till here. If you want to access this application, grab your server IP and use port 9090. Let's do that. So I'll just copy this one. I'll go here in the browser, paste this, and 9090, not 9000. It should be 9090, and you will have the Prometheus application up and running for you. Let's wait for that. Okay, if you see here, Prometheus is installed right now. Let me go to status and I'll go and select targets. Currently, the local endpoint is up and running. And if you see here, it's running since 9.43 seconds. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do other things. That is to create, we need to also install Node Exporter. So first let's create a system user for Node Exporter and download the Node Exporter. Let me just copy this. I'll clear the screen for you. I'll paste the command that I just copied, and then I just need to install this. Let me copy this one. Let me cd and come out of this folder. Okay, let me clear the screen now, and I'll paste this one to install node exporter. No such file or directory, so I think I made a mistake. So let me just copy this again. Sorry, not here. Just paste it again. Okay, I think I was in a different directory, but make sure you are in the home directory. Okay, so now let me copy this one. I'll clear the screen. I'll paste this again, and that should be good. You are installing all the things. Okay, so now we also need to change the configuration and create the configuration file for the node exporter. So I'll just copy this path. I need to create the things or provide the configuration settings. So what I'll do is I'll open VI editor again, and I'll paste the path. Once that is done, I'll go into insert mode, paste whatever we have in the repository, escape :WQ and exclamation. Once that is done, that is the required details. And we need to start and enable node exporter. I'll just go here, paste the command, and now let's check the status of node exporter. All right, if you see here, it's active and running since 4 seconds ago. Let's clear the screen, and now let's get the ball rolling. So we need to configure Prometheus plugin and interactions. So firstly, we need to integrate Jenkins with Prometheus to monitor the CI/CD pipeline. To configure Prometheus to scrape metrics from node exporter and Jenkins, you will have to modify the prometheus.yaml file. And here's the example to do that. So what you need to do is you just copy this job name. So usually Prometheus file will be present in /etc file. So what we'll do is cd /etc/Prometheus. Okay, Prometheus is there. If you hit enter and if you list the files that are present, if you see here prometheus.yaml is there. So if you want, this is the file where prometheus.yaml file is present. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll just open this in the VI editor and make certain changes to this YAML file. And you will have few details already, so don't modify anything. Scrum all the way down. Go into insert mode and hit enter. Make sure the indentation is right. If not, it is not going to work. Just copy from job name till this one. So I'll come back again and I'll paste it. And I'll need to provide the local host name here. Instead of local host, I'll get the IP address of the server. So I'll just copy the public IP. So I'll just make sure to change here as well. The Jenkins IP is also same. I just need to add the Jenkins IP. And as you know, Jenkins works on port 8080. So I also need to change the port number here. Let's do that. So remove this quickly and add port 8080. Okay, so if this is looking good, let's also change the local host here. Instead of local host, it should be the IP address of the server. Okay, so let me just paste this one. This looks good. Click on escape :WQ and exclamation and hit enter. So this should be good. But if you're not confident if you have the changes that you made is correct or not, you can use prompt tool. So prompt tool will check if the indentation and if the configuration is valid or not. So let's just paste that and see. If you get a success message, then everything is good. If you see here success. Okay, now let's go ahead and reload the configuration file so that it will take into effect. So I'll just run this post and reload, and then it should be good. Okay, now we can access your Prometheus IP here, and it should be working on port 9090. So let's go to Prometheus as we have already opened. So now if you see here, currently only one endpoint is there. Now if I refresh it, you should be seeing some more targets being added. Let's wait for that. Meanwhile, let's check what is happening with the pipeline. If you see here, it is taking time here in the OWASP file scan. If you want to verify, you can go to console output, and if you see here, it is completed 49% of it, so it will take some more time. So let's go back and wait for this to complete. Meanwhile, you can see Okay, if you see here, Node Exporter is also installed and also Jenkins is up and running. All these three are up and running now. So next we'll go ahead and install Grafana and see how things work. Okay, so to install Grafana on Ubuntu 22.04 and set it up to work with Prometheus, firstly we need to install the necessary dependencies for it to work. So firstly we are going to update the system and we are going to install this transport software properties common and everything. So let me just copy this one. I'll go to the same server. I'll clear the screen, paste this one, and we'll see if everything works well, and if required we can install a few things as well. If you see here, it installed all the required things. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to add the JPG key. So I'll just copy this one. I'll add the JPG key. So if you get OK message, then everything is good. Next, we also need to add the Grafana repository. So let me copy this command, paste it here. If you see here, this is also good. Next, let's go ahead and update and install Grafana. So this is a command to install and update Grafana. So let me just copy that. Firstly, I'll clear the screen for you so that it is not confusing, and I'll paste this. And this will take some time to install Grafana. Once the Grafana is installed, we can enable and start the Grafana service. So let's wait for that to complete. So while this is getting installed, let's also check what is happening with our Kubernetes cluster, whether it is installed or not. Okay, seems like it is done. Let's complete this and then go to the Kubernetes cluster. Now, if you see here, next command is to enable Grafana server. So I'll just paste this command. This is enabled. Next, we need to start the Grafana. So I'll just paste that command. Let's check the status of Grafana. So I've made it really simple for you. As you see, I just copy paste everything from the repository that I have. So I've made it really simple for you. So you can just follow this repository blindly. Now, if you see here, Grafana is up and running. I'll come out of this. It's running since 4 seconds. So that should be good. Now let's go back to the repository. And you can access your Grafana using your server IP on port 3000. If you're wondering why we added port 3000 in our security group, that's the reason, right? As I told you, Grafana is required. You can take the screenshot of this, all the ports that are required, and you can add it in a single go. Okay. Now let's grab the public IP. I'll go and paste it here with port 3000. If you see here, Grafana is up and running for us. So I need to provide the username and password. Username is admin and also password is also admin. I'll just click on it. Okay, so I'll just skip this because I'll go with admin. And here we need to add the Prometheus as our database. So what we can do is you can click on data sources, select Prometheus. All you have to do is you need to provide the Prometheus IP here. So let's go here, get the URL till port 9090, copy that, paste it here. Okay, so this should be good. Scroll all the way down. You don't have to do anything else. You click on save and test. So if this is successful, you are able to see this successfully queried the Prometheus API. This should be good, right? Now let's go to dashboards. So firstly, let's create a dashboard, Grafana dashboard for Jenkins. For doing that, what you can do is let's go to Google. I'll just say Grafana Jenkins dashboard. Jenkins. Yeah, I'll hit enter. And if you see here, this is the first one that we are going to get. Let's click and open that link. And if you see here, there is an ID for this, just copy that. Go to your dashboards, click on this. Sorry, not here. Click on this, click import. Paste the ID that you just copied, click on load. You need to select Prometheus, the data source that we just added, click on import. Once that is done, if you see here, currently what is the status of your Jenkins, everything will be displayed. How many executors are free, how much of memory is free and how much is being used, and the health of Jenkins, If you are having master node configuration, if the nodes are available, what is the health status of your node and things like that, and the CPU utilization, how much is being used, everything, executor in use, everything, you will get it in this dashboard. Okay, so this is one of the dashboard that you can use. And there is one more thing that we can do. We can go ahead and node exporter Grafana dashboard. So there is another beautiful dashboard that you can use. If you see here, this is the node exporter full, and you can just copy the ID again. Let's go here. Let's go to dashboard, and I'll click on import again. And here I'll paste the ID that I just copied, 1860. I'll just click on load, and I'll select the Prometheus data source again, and I'll click on import. Once I import it, you should be seeing all the data related to our node port. If you see here, CPU, it is currently at 40%, and system load is 0.6, RAM, all the things you will have this here. If you see here, CPU, how much is being used, how much is idle, everything. If you see here, literally everything is provided in this dashboard. Okay, so this is the node exporter dashboard. We have already installed two dashboard. One is Jenkins and the other one is node exporter. Now let's check the status of our cluster. If you see here, cluster is already created, but let's go to the other repository. We need to create this one. So we need to first go and create and associate IAM OIDC provider for EKS cluster. So let me just copy this one, and I'll paste this. This should take a minute or two for it to complete. So let's wait until that is done. And the other one that we need to do is create the node group itself. So to create the node group, we need to provide the SSH public here, but AMC demo you need to replace with a key that you downloaded. So bgarray was the PEM file that I downloaded, so I just replaced that AMC demo with bgarray. So I'll just copy this command instead of pasting it and then doing it. So let me modify it here. So I'll just paste this somewhere. I'll open our text file. All I have to do is here, instead of AMC demo, I'll just say bgarray. Okay, so let me just copy this. Okay, I'll come here, I'll paste this one. So this will create the node group as well. Under the hood, what is this happens is it is going to create the CloudFormation templates, and it is going to get the details for you. Okay, so let's check the pipeline now, and if you see here, it's still it has completed 18 minutes. It has checked all the things that are required. If it is still in the OS file scan stage, let's check the logs. It's almost done. It's 83% and it's 87 now. So once the cluster is up and running, you can go ahead and do other things as well. First, let's wait for this to complete, and then we will see. Firstly, what I've done is I'm running it as a container, and then once the container is ready, we can use that container to deploy the Kubernetes cluster itself. So for that, deploying on the Kubernetes cluster, let's go ahead and use the EKS cluster in this example, because you can also go ahead and do that in the Jenkins pipeline, but to keep it simple, I'm going to do that manually. If you want, you can also create another repository where you will create the EKS cluster using the Terraform, and then you can also add that for a Jenkins CI/CD pipeline, and everything should be working as expected. Okay, so if you see here, 91% of is complete. So I'll check the progress of this. So also monitor for the errors. If you have something created without the proper details, it might fail, right? So just keep monitoring your node group and your cluster as well while you create it. Okay, so this is the Jenkins. I'll just close this because we have already created two dashboards which are really important, right? And in the Prometheus, we also need to add Kubernetes as a target here. Let's do that once the cluster is up and running. So let's go back all the way up here. Let's see what is the progress. It has taken 20 minutes. I think in the next 2 minutes it should be done. So let's wait for that to complete. All right, if you see here, it took around 22 minutes. Then it went to the next stage, that is Trivy file scan, and that is also complete. Now it is building the Docker image, and once the image is built, it will tag that image and it will push it to the Docker Hub repository, right? So let's see the logs at the same time. So let's understand what is happening. And if you see here, it is installing all the required packages. This is as part of step 3, right? And it is copying all the requirement.txt. It's installing everything that is required. And then it will make the application running on port 5100. So let's wait for that to complete. If you see here, now it is exporting, right? So later it tagged. Firstly, it tried to log in to our Docker Hub repository using the credentials that we just processed. The login was succeeded. And then it tagged Docker tag, background remover application, and it is trying to push that. Okay, so now let's parallelly go to our repository, and if you refresh the page, if you see here, there are only 3 repositories currently. Once this is complete, it is saying pushed, but once it is completed, all the things, you should be seeing another repository with the name background remover application, right? So let's refresh the page and see. And if you see here, it was last pushed less than a minute ago, so it is just pushed, and this is the one where it is happening. If you see here, downloading Docker clients, and now it's login succeeded. Then it is scouting for the image, and if it is seeing if there is any vulnerabilities. Once this is done, it is going to create a container for you, and you will be able to access the application using the container. And then let's see how we can do this on the Kubernetes cluster, but using load balancer as a service, right? So let's wait for this to complete. This is going to be really exciting. And one thing I forgot to mention, if you're really liking the content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing, like it, share it with your friends who are really enjoying DevOps journey or DevSecOps journey, and ask them to build this project, because this is one of the simple one, but yet we are including all the things that are required in the DevOps world. So I would encourage you to add this on the resume as well. You can create a document out of it. If you are viewing the video, and if you do not have the account to build this one, what you can do is instead make a note of all the things that I'm discussing in this video, write down, and create 1 or 10 or 15 pages of document and share it with the community so that everyone can understand. So you can also post it on LinkedIn, Instagram, or any other social media platform. Tag us. We are available on @AmonkinCloud on all the social media platforms. Let us know how you felt about this. Even if it is bad, that's for our learning. Let us know your genuine feedback in the comment section as well. So we will take it forward from that. And if you see here, pipeline is succeeded now. So it gave all the required details about the image as well. It has checked for all the CVEs, common vulnerabilities, and all the list is present here. If you want to refer this, you can do that. Also, sometimes what happens, it will be forwarded to the security team, and they will check it. Now we can access your application on port 5100. So what we'll do is, let's check the stage once, and then we will access the application. So let's scroll down all the way up here, and if you see here, it has succeeded. And now let's go to our SonarQube and the projects. If you see here, there are 0 bugs, 0 vulnerabilities, and code smells of 1, and duplication of 0%. Basically, there is no duplication at all. And if you want to analyze more about this, you can go here, and it takes 5 minutes. There are some security hotspots, 5 security hotspots, but there is nothing that is critical at the moment for you to take a look. So all these are passed, all conditions are passed now. Okay, now let's go ahead and access the application. To do that, copy the public IP, go to the browser, paste the public IP, and paste and give the port 5100. But make sure that 5100 is allowed in your security group. We did that already, so we need not do that. Now I'll hit enter, and you will see the application rolling out for you. And now let's do the same testing. It is not just uploading or deploying the application. We need to also check if it is working fine or not. So let's select the image. Okay, I'll just click on remove background, And if you see, it is still progressing. Once that is done, you should be able to see the file. Okay, let's check that. And if you see here, it downloaded it. Let me open that. Yeah, it is working as expected. So now we just deployed it on a container, but we also need to deploy this on a Kubernetes cluster. Container, no one uses it right now. Everyone is going with a Kubernetes and the load balancer as a service when it is a production grade application. So let's also do that. But before that, let me close this browser and see what is happening with the Kubernetes cluster. And if you see here, the node groups are created. So what we'll do is let's go to our AWS console. Let's check the EKS Elastic Kubernetes service, and you should be seeing one of the cluster up and running. And if you see here, it's running 1.2.9 Kubernetes version, and it's having a compute node group. So you have two nodes on one node group. So this is the AMI version and the template that we used. All the things are provided here. So let's just go to our terminal. I'll clear the screen. I'll just say kubectl get nodes. If you see here, there are two nodes that are running, right? So this looks good. Now let's go to our repository and keep this rolling. So everything is done. Now let's go ahead with the monitor Kubernetes with Prometheus. So Prometheus is a powerful monitoring and alerting tool, and you will use it to monitor your Kubernetes cluster. And additionally, you will install Node Exporter using Helm to collect metrics from your cluster nodes. So to install Node Exporter using Helm, so to begin monitoring your Kubernetes cluster, you will install Prometheus Node Exporter. This component allows you to collect system level metrics from your cluster nodes. And here's the steps to install the Node Exporter using Helm. Firstly, let's add Prometheus community to our Helm repository. To do that, let's copy this one. Let's go to the terminal, paste this one. And once that is added, okay, it says it's already exists, but that is good. If that doesn't exist, we'll go ahead and do that. But for this to work, you need to install Helm, right? So to install Helm, you can go and search for Helm install. Depending on your operating system, you can go ahead and install it, right? So all the commands that are required is present in this documentation. I'll make sure to provide all these links to the installations and the other repository that we followed. Make sure to check that out. Okay, I'll just close this one. Let's create a Kubernetes namespace for the node exporter. So the command to do that is Kubernetes create namespace Prometheus node exporter. I'll just copy this one, paste it here. So once the namespace, if you see here, the namespace is created. Now let's just check for the namespaces, kubectl get ns. If you see, we have default, we have kubenode lease, public, system, and this is the one that we just created 10 seconds ago. Okay, so this looks good. Let me clear the screen. And now let's install the node exporter using Helm. So the command to do that is just copy this one and paste this. It will install Prometheus node exporter on the Kubernetes cluster. So once that is done, we also need to change the Prometheus file by adding this one. So we need to add this configuration as well. Let's just copy this one. Let's see. Okay, so Helm installed the Prometheus node exporter. We also need one more terminal, as I told you, like we were using this one. So let me log in again because it has timed out. Let me log in as a root user. Don't get confused. This is the server and the other one is the cluster itself. Okay, let me clear the screen. And as I told you, I need to change or add this one. So I'll just copy this one, come here. We need to open the Prometheus file vi/etc/Prometheus, and here there will be a file called prometheus.yaml. Let's just open that. Remember, we made these changes previously, but we also need to do the same thing for Kubernetes node export. So I'll just scroll to the right and I'll go to the insert mode and I'll hit enter. Paste the command that we just copied, and here I just need to make the changes node 1 IP, right? So let's get the node IPs for that. So you go inside the cluster, go here, go to compute. Let's just open this one. I'll just open this instance and copy the public IP of this. Just copy this, come here, and you just need to replace this node IP with that. Okay. You can grab any of these IPs. There are 2 nodes. You can just get one of the nodes, or you can also add one more metric path and provide another target here. There is no harm in doing that. Okay. So I'll just click on escape, write and quit, and exclamation, right? So that is good. And if you want to check again, if the modification that you've done, if it is working fine or not, you can use the prompt tool again. So let me just copy that, paste that. And if you get the success message, that should be good. Next, let's reload the configs. Okay, so that should be good. Now, if I go to Prometheus, I should be seeing another target being added other than the node exporter that we already had. Let's just check that. And if you see here, KTS 0 by 1 is up. So if you see here, it says unknown, the state is unknown, but this is the IP and this is the error. Let's just refresh it. Let's see what is the error that we are going to get. And if you see here, this is the error, context deadline exceeded. I understood. What's the reason is because we have not allowed port 9100 on the security group attached to your instance that is spun up as part of Kubernetes cluster. As I told you, there are going to be 2 nodes that you are going to get, right? So if I go back to nodes, if you see here, these are the 2 nodes that you're getting as part of the node group. So, and this is the instance that was created as part of your node group. And if you check the security group of this, let me open any one of them. I'll just open this one. And if you see, there is no port 9100 open. So let's open that. Let's add that here. And I'll say node exporter port. Okay, I'll just save the rules. Now, after adding that, if I just refresh it, let's see if this will be up and running or not. So the data is being collected, but if that needs to be pushed to your Prometheus, port 9100 should be open, right? If that is not open, it is not going to get the data. Now, if you see here, Kubernetes KTS 1 by 1 is up and running, right? So this is how you also troubleshoot the issues a while ago. So this looks good. Let's scroll all the way down where we were doing this. This is done. Now let's go ahead and install Argo CD and then deploy our application. So you need to follow this documentation to install Argo CD. It is really straightforward. To install Argo CD, all you have to do is just copy these 2 commands. Let's just open the terminal. Okay, so let me clear the screen and I'll paste this. I'll create a namespace called Argo CD and then apply this particular YAML file. Okay, so this will take a minute or 2. Once that is done, we also need to get the service created for this, and we also need to get the password for Argo CD. Let's do that. So let's see what is the progress of it. It is creating all the required services, all the things, objects that are required under Kubernetes is getting created. Although we are not going to use all of them, but it is necessary for Argo CD to work. So let's wait for that to complete. Once that is done, we will see how we can build this one. Okay, so the installation is complete. Now let's go to the guide. This is the only command that you need to run in this page. Now let's go to the next page. Here I need to expose our Argo CD server. So this is the command which will help us in doing that. Let me copy that. Let me clear the screen for you and I'll paste that one. Basically, this is going to create a load balancer service and it exposes on your load balancer. So this is going to create a load balancer in your Kubernetes VPC that just got created. Okay, once that is done, wait for 2 minutes. If you see here, wait about 2 or 3 minutes for the load balancer to create. Once that is created, you can export that load balancer, URL, the DNS name, and you can use that to access the Argo CD server. So let's do that. Let's wait for 2 minutes. Once that is done, let's run this, and also we'll log into the Argo CD server and then keep the ball rolling. Okay. So let's wait for 2 more minutes and then log into Argo server. All right, we almost waited for 2 minutes. Let's run this command. I'll just copy this command. I'll go to my terminal and I'll paste this one. Once this is done, let's echo on this, echo and dollar and paste this one. You should be getting the D1S URL. So let me copy the ELB. Let's go to our browser and paste this one. Let's go to advanced, proceed. You should be able to access your Argo server. Okay, so let's wait. All right, I think Argo CD is coming up, so let's wait for that to come. Okay, let's get stuff deployed. The username for this, the initial username would be admin, but the password will be stored here. So let's go down, and if you see and come to the same guide, if you see here, login is there, and here you will get the password. So I'll just copy this one. I'll go to terminal again. I'll paste this one. And open this environment variable. I'll just say echo dollar and paste this one, and you will get the password here. Copy that, go to the browser, go and paste the password here, and then sign in. Once you do that, this is your Argo CD dashboard. And firstly, let's go ahead and click on manage your repositories. Firstly, we need to add a repository. So I'll just go and click on connect repo using HTTPS. The type is get, project is default, that should be good. I'll get the repository URL from here, go all the way up, get the repository URL, paste it here, that should be good. And as this is a public repository, I don't have to do anything else. Let me just click on connect, and the connection was successful. Now let's go ahead and manage the application. Let's create a new application. I'll click on new app. I'll just say background remover Python application. Let me just copy that. I'll paste it here. Project name is default. Sync policy, I'm going to check it automatic. Repository URL, it should be already there. Let's select that one. And the path, if you go back to a repository, inside this repository, we need to go inside Kubernetes because we are deploying the YAML files. So firstly, let me show you what are the YAML configurations that we have. Inside Kubernetes, we have deployment.yaml. Basically, this will going to create a deployment for us. If you see here, the name of the deployment is background remover Python app. And the image that we are going to use is Monkey Cloud background remover Python app. That is already there in the Docker Hub repository. And everything else remains same. Replicas, I'm keeping it as 2. And I'm going with the selectors and the template metadata, etc. So image is this one, name of this container is this, and the container port it is going to work is 5100. So this looks good. So now let's explore other service as well. Node service, this is required for the node port service. So this looks good. Node exporter, Prometheus node exporter, and this works on port 9100. So this is also good. Next, let's go to the service. As part of this application, I'm going to create a load balancer service, which the target port is 5100, the port number is 5100, right? So these are the YAML files that we have. So for this to work, what I need to do, I need to be inside this Kubernetes file. So I'll just copy this one. I need to mention Kubernetes because I should be inside this Kubernetes path. The cluster URL, select this one. Namespace, I'll deploy this on default namespace. That should be fine. Nothing else we need to do. Make sure everything is correct and then click on create. So once this is created, if you see here, it is syncing. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. If you see here, background remover Python application is up, it's running, but it's also need to create a node port, and it also need to create a load balancer. So it might take a minute or two. So let's give it a moment. And if you see here, it created the replica set. It has deployed the pod. If you see here, the pod is up and running, right? So this is the status, and the IP addresses, all the things are there. And if you see here, it has used this image as well. But let's also verify in the background at the same time. So kubectl get pods. If I run this, you should be seeing few pods of the application. If you see here, background remover Python app, and this is up and running since 45 seconds. And let's also check for the services, kubectl get SVC, how many services we have deployed. If you see here, load balancer service was just created. Let's just copy this one. Okay, this should be working on port 5100. So let's go to the browser and I'll paste this one, and I need to provide 5100. So if I hit enter, I should be seeing the application up and running. So let's wait for that to complete. Make sure to also add 5100 in the port in the security group. So let's wait for that to complete. If that is not working, let's see how it goes. Okay, so the sync is done. So let's see. Okay, so I think the pods and all is up and running. So let me just remove this port and see. Let's go ahead and check the security group here. Let's add port 5100 and see 5100 from everywhere app port. Okay, so this is the node port security group, but let's also do the same for cluster as well. So shared node group, and this one is okay. So let me close this one. Also this one. Let's come here, and if I go to if I just open this one, I'll click and open this EC2 instance. I'll go to security. First, let me refresh on the page and see. But I think I need to add 5100, but let's try that. Okay, meanwhile, we can also add this inside this one. So I'll go to other security group as well. Just click on edit it, and I'll just add, from 5100, sorry, it took 4000, it should be 5100, and from everywhere. Okay, I'll just save this. Okay, this looks good. Let's go to, let's also check the, load balancers that are up and running. As I told, let's just copy this external load balancer, paste it here. This is the load balancer. And if I go to security, let's open the security group of this as well and see if all the ports are there or not. If you see 5100 is there, but not sure why it is not working, but let me remove this once and try once again. Or let me just copy this, redo it again, 5100. All right, if you see here, the issue was with the cache. Nothing was wrong in terms of the application. So if you face issues like this, go ahead and open the new browser or a new tab and then start doing the same. If you see here, we are able to access this application on port 5100, and this is not, it says not secure, but you can also go ahead and configure the SSL certificate for your load balancer, and it should be good. Now let me choose the same file again. Let's just click on test file, and I'll click on remove background. And if I get an app, if I get a new image downloaded with the background removed, this application is running on the EKS cluster using the load balancer without any issues. I think it downloaded it. Let me open that and see. If you see here, the application removed the background and it's working as expected. So this is how you deploy your, a background remover application, which is built on Flask using the DevSecOps approach. And the end-to-end process is already there on this GitHub repositories. Just follow this one and make sure to delete all the things that you have created at the end. So only thing you have to do is go to your EC2. Let's go to EC2. Go to running EC2 instances. You have to remove this Jenkins server. And another thing that you need to do is you need to run this EKS cluster delete AMC demo. This will delete your Kubernetes cluster, including the node group. While doing so, if you face any issues, let me know in the comments. I'll help you out. If not, you can try and Google and remove the resources that you created. Okay, so this is a simple end-to-end deployment of your Python application running on Flask. So if you are liking the content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing and share it with your friends. And if you build this project, go ahead and publish an article, or go ahead and write a blog on this, and let your community know that you have built this one. And also make sure to tag this or tag us on the social media platform so that we are also aware of it. So thank you, and I will see you in the next demonstration with another exciting project. Until then, take care.